What if the world you know is just the tip of the iceberg? Beneath the surface, there are places so bizarre and surprising, they defy everything you've been told. Imagine stepping into a forest where the trees are taller than skyscrapers, or standing in a vast desert where the sand dunes stretch as far as the eye can see. The Earth is full of strange, unexplained mysteries that will leave you questioning what's real. Today, we're uncovering 37 geography facts that are so wild, they might sound like science fiction, but they're 100% true. Get ready to have your mind blown. Let's not waste another second. Here comes number 1. While Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth, it's not the closest point to space. That honor goes to Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador. Because the Earth bulges at the equator, Chimborazo is technically farther from the Earth's center than Everest is, even though it's nearly 2,000 meters shorter. Number 2. France's longest land border isn't in Europe, it's with Brazil. Wait, France and Brazil share a border? Yep, and not just any border. France's longest land border is actually with Brazil. The overseas region of French Guiana, located in South America, is an official part of France. That means when it borders Brazil, it's technically a France-Brazil border. It stretches for about 730 kilometers, longer than France's border with Spain or Germany. Number 3. China holds the world record for the greatest elevation range in a single country. China goes from sky-high to way below sea level. At one end, you've got Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. At the other, the Turpan Depression, a lowland that sinks 154 meters below sea level. The total elevation difference? A jaw-dropping 9,002 meters, the greatest range within any country on the planet. Number 4. You can walk from the US to Russia on ice. In the middle of the Bering Strait sit two tiny islands, Big Diomede, owned by Russia, and Little Diomede, owned by the United States. They're only about 2.5 miles apart, so close that on a clear day, you can see from one to the other. In winter, the water between them freezes solid, meaning you could technically walk from America to Russia right across the sea ice. Oh, and here's the kicker. Because of the international date line, Big Diomede is almost a full day ahead of Little Diomede, so you're not just crossing countries, you're walking into tomorrow. Number 5. Most of humanity lives in just half the planet. If you drew a line around the globe at the equator, you'd find something surprising. 90% of all people on Earth live in the Northern Hemisphere. That includes nearly all of Asia, Europe, North America, and a big chunk of Africa. The Southern Hemisphere? Mostly oceans and far fewer people. So while the world feels massive, most of us are actually packed into just one side of it. Number 6. The shortest commercial flight in the world lasts just 57 seconds. There's a flight in the Orkney Islands, Scotland, that takes just 57 seconds from one island to another. This flight covers a mere 1.7 miles, and it's considered the shortest scheduled commercial flight in the world. Number 7. There's a sea with no shore, floating in the middle of the ocean. Most seas are tucked against coastlines, but the Sargasso Sea breaks all the rules. It's the only sea on Earth with no land borders, completely surrounded by ocean currents instead. Situated in the middle of the North Atlantic, it's framed by the Gulf Stream, the Canary Current, the North Atlantic Current, and the Equatorial Current. Number 8. There's a hidden forest in China growing inside a massive sinkhole. The Zhaozhai Tiankeng in China isn't just the largest sinkhole on Earth. It's a world of its own. Over 2,000 feet wide and more than 2,170 feet deep, this massive crater is home to a lush, hidden forest teeming with rare plants and animals found nowhere else. Number 9. The world's largest group of islands is in Southeast Asia. Scattered across turquoise seas and tropical skies, the Malay Archipelago is the largest island group on Earth. It's made up of over 24,000 islands, including the more than 17,000 in Indonesia and around 7,000 in the Philippines. That's more islands than any other region on the planet. You might also hear it called the East Indies, a name echoing back to the days of spice traders and colonial explorers. Number 10. Lake Baikal holds 20% of the world's freshwater. Lake Baikal in Siberia is the world's oldest and deepest lake. It holds about 20% of the Earth's entire unfrozen freshwater supply, making it more than all of the North American Great Lakes combined. Number 11. The tallest mountain outside Asia towers over South America. Everyone knows the Himalayas dominate when it comes to the world's tallest peaks. But what about outside of Asia? That title goes to Aconcagua, rising nearly to 7,000 meters above sea level. It's nestled in the Andes Mountains of Argentina, and it's the highest point in both the southern and western hemispheres. Number 12. The longest flight in the world takes nearly 19 hours, non-stop. We talked about the world's shortest commercial flight. Now let's look at the opposite. The world's longest commercial flight travels from Singapore to New York City. Covering a distance of about 15,300 kilometers, that's over 9,500 miles, this journey clocks in at around 18 hours and 40 minutes. It crosses multiple time zones, the Pacific, the Arctic, and sometimes even parts of the North Pole, all without touching the ground once. Number 13. The deepest hole ever drilled on Earth is over 12 kilometers deep. The Kola Super Deep borehole in Russia holds the record for the deepest man-made hole on Earth, reaching 12,262 meters. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall, and even deeper than the Mariana Trench, the lowest natural point on Earth. And yet, despite that mind-blowing depth, it only reaches about a third of Earth's crust. Temperatures underground hit a scorching 180 degrees Celsius, making further drilling impossible. Number 14. Earth's temperature extremes span over 150 degrees Celsius. The highest temperature ever recorded was a blistering 56.7 degrees Celsius in Furnace Creek, Death Valley, USA, back in 1913. On the flip side, the coldest temperature ever measured was a bone-cracking minus 89.2 degrees Celsius at Vostok Station, Antarctica, in 1983. That's a jaw-dropping difference of nearly 146 degrees Celsius, all happening on the same planet we call home. Number 15. There's an island that changes countries every 6 months. It might sound like something out of a spy novel, but Pheasant Island, situated between France and Spain on the Bidasoa River, is the real deal. Every 6 months, the island literally switches sovereignty, belonging to Spain from February to July, and France from August to January. Number 16. Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined. When it comes to lakes, Canada is in a league of its own. This one country is home to hundreds of thousands of lakes, accounting for more than half of all the natural lakes on Earth. In fact, Canada has so much water that if we only measured land area, it wouldn't even be the second largest country. That title would go to China. Number 17. Africa is 14 times bigger than Greenland. If you've ever looked at a map and thought Greenland looked enormous, you're not alone. On most world maps, it seems almost as big as Africa, but that's a cartographic illusion. In reality, Africa is about 14 times larger than Greenland. The reason? The popular Mercator projection stretches landmasses near the poles, making Greenland look huge when it's actually closer in size to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Number 18. Bhutan has the highest average elevation of any country on Earth. Nestled in the Himalayas, the tiny kingdom of Bhutan holds a sky-high record. It's the highest country on average in the entire world. The average elevation across Bhutan is over 3,200 meters or 10,500 feet above sea level. That means even its valleys are higher than many mountain towns elsewhere. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the Maldives barely breaks the surface, its islands averaging just 1.5 meters above sea level, making it the lowest country on Earth. Number 19. The driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert. Located in northern Chile, the Atacama Desert is a place where rain is almost a myth. Some parts of this desert have never recorded any measurable rainfall, and scientists say it's even drier than Mars in certain spots. And just to show how extreme Earth can be, the wettest place on Earth is Mawsynram, a village in northeastern India that gets hit with a staggering 11 meters of rain every year. Number 20. Lesotho has the highest low point of any country on Earth. We just talked about Bhutan, the country with the highest average elevation in the world. But here's a twist. Lesotho, a small kingdom in southern Africa, holds the record for the highest low point on Earth. Its lowest elevation is still a lofty 1,400 meters. That means even Lesotho's valleys are higher than many other countries' mountain peaks. Number 21. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth. From the highlands of Bhutan and Lesotho, let's take a deep dive, literally. The Dead Sea, nestled between Jordan and Israel, sits at around 430 meters below sea level, making it the lowest exposed point on the planet. And it's not just low, it's incredibly salty. So salty, in fact, that you can float effortlessly on its surface. Number 22. Bangladesh has the largest river delta in the world. At the edge of the Himalayas, something remarkable happens. Rivers become oceans. In Bangladesh, the mighty Ganges and Brahmaputra rivers merge to form the largest river delta on Earth, covering more than 100,000 square kilometers. Number 23. La Paz is the highest capital city on Earth. Perched high in the Andes, La Paz isn't just Bolivia's capital. It's the highest capital city in the world. Sitting at an altitude of about 3,650 meters or 11,975 feet, the city clings to mountain slopes and sprawls into a massive bowl-shaped valley. The air is thin, the sun feels closer, and you're literally living above the clouds. Number 24. There's a phantom island in the Pacific that keeps disappearing. In the vast blue of the Pacific Ocean, there was once an island called Sandy Island, or so we thought. For over a century, it appeared on maps, atlases, even Google Earth. But when researchers sailed to its coordinates in 2012, there was nothing but ocean. No land, no reef, not even a trace. Just a mapping mystery left drifting in open water. Sandy Island was officially erased from maps, becoming one of the strangest cases of a phantom island the world has ever known. Number 25. The Amazon rainforest is the largest living structure on Earth. Spanning over 5.5 million square kilometers, the Amazon rainforest is the largest living structure on the planet. It breathes, moves, and even makes its own weather. Home to millions of species and producing more than 20% of the world's oxygen, the Amazon isn't just a forest. It's a living, pulsing system that helps regulate the entire planet. It's often called the lungs of the Earth, and for good reason. Number 26. The US and Canada share the longest border on Earth. Stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and even up into Alaska, the border between Canada and the United States is the longest international border in the world. At nearly 9,000 kilometers, it weaves through forests, mountains, lakes, and some of the most remote wilderness on the continent. Number 27. On the flip side, Morocco and Spain share the shortest border on Earth. After that epic stretch between Canada and the US, let's go to the opposite extreme. It's just 85 meters long, barely the length of a soccer field. This tiny boundary lies between Spain and Morocco, at a place called Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, a Spanish military outpost connected to Morocco by a narrow strip of land. Number 28. The tallest tree on Earth is hidden in California. Towering above the forest floor like a natural skyscraper, the Hyperion tree holds the record as the tallest known tree on Earth. It's a coast redwood, quietly growing in a remote part of Redwood National Park, California. How tall? A jaw-dropping 116 meters, or 380 feet. That's even taller than Big Ben in London. Its exact location is kept secret to protect it from damage, but it's out there, rising silently above the canopy like a green giant. Number 29. The world's northernmost year-round settlement is in Canada. Situated at the tip of Ellesmere Island in Nunavut, the tiny outpost of Alert is the northernmost permanently inhabited place on Earth. The closest city? That would be Iqaluit, the capital of Nunavut, over 2,000 kilometers away. Only a few dozen people live here year-round, mostly researchers and military personnel. It's one of the most remote and extreme places humans have ever called home. Number 30. France and the Netherlands share a border, but not where you'd expect. Most people picture Europe when they think of France and the Netherlands, but these two countries actually share a land border in the Caribbean. On the island of Saint Martin, the northern half is French territory and the southern half is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It's the only place on Earth where France and the Netherlands meet on land, thousands of kilometers away from Europe. Number 31. There is a country with no capital city. Nauru, a tiny island nation in the Pacific, is the only country in the world with no official capital city. Government offices are spread throughout the district of Yaren, which functions like a capital, but it's never been officially declared one. On the other hand, South Africa has 3 capitals. Pretoria is the administrative capital, Cape Town serves as the legislative capital, and Bloemfontein is the judicial capital. It's a reminder that not all nations follow the same rulebook, even when it comes to something as basic as a capital city. Number 32. What's on the other side of the world? For Hawaii, it's Botswana. Only about 15% of the land on Earth has land directly opposite it. Most of the time, if you dug a hole straight through the planet, you'd end up in the ocean. These rare matching spots are called antipodes, points on opposite sides of the globe. And here's a surprising one. If you're standing in Hawaii, your geographic opposite isn't in Asia or the Pacific. It's in Botswana in southern Africa. Number 33. Canada has the longest coastline in the world. With its countless bays, inlets, and over 52,000 islands, Canada's coastline stretches more than 202,000 kilometers, or 125,000 miles. That's more than twice the length of Norway's, which takes second place with about 83,000 kilometers of winding fjords and scattered islands. Number 34. Libya is 90% desert. Libya is one of the most desert-heavy countries in the world. The vast majority of it, about 90%, is covered by the Sahara Desert. It's a land of shifting sand dunes, rock formations, and ancient oases, with life thriving in just a tiny fraction of the country. Number 35. Speaking of deserts, Antarctica is actually the biggest one. It might surprise you, but deserts aren't just hot. They're defined by how little precipitation they get. And by that definition, Antarctica is the largest desert on the planet, covering a staggering 14 million square kilometers. It's cold, dry, and barren, receiving less moisture than the Sahara. In fact, parts of Antarctica haven't seen rain or snow for nearly 2 million years. Number 36. The world's oldest capital city is Damascus. While cities rise and fall, Damascus in Syria has stood the test of time. It's widely recognized as the oldest continuously inhabited capital in the world, with its roots going back to at least the 3rd millennium BC. That means Damascus was already ancient when the Roman Empire was just getting started. And the last one for this video, number 37. There are 3 unclaimed territory on Earth. In a world dominated by borders, there are still a few places that no country claims. These are called terra nullius, meaning nobody's land. Only 3 such places exist today. Bir Tawil, a barren stretch between Egypt and Sudan that neither side wants. Marie Byrd Land in Antarctica, left untouched by international treaties. And the disputed territory between Serbia and Croatia, an area that remains unclaimed by both nations. These areas exist as geopolitical anomalies, where the usual rules of ownership just don't apply. So there you have it, 37 geography facts you should definitely know. Got a weird, surprising, or just plain awesome geography fact? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to check it out, and who knows, it might even make it into a future episode. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating geography content coming your way. And if you liked the maps I used in this video, there's a link in the description you'll definitely want to explore. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.